Hello and welcome to my second attempt to do the Being a Trusted Advisor as a Tester talk. I previously tried to do this talk for Motor City testers about a week and a half ago. It didn't do so good as unfortunately a power failure in my house caused my router to blow out, so we had to abandon it and I agreed to do it as an online talk instead. For any of you joining us from Motor City testers, hello and welcome, and I promise I will do my best to get to the end of this one. The new router is also on a power surge resistant extension cable as well, so hopefully that will work out. So who am I? Elizabeth Fines is his name. I'm a test lead here at Scott Logic in London. I'm socially engaged on LinkedIn and Twitter. On LinkedIn, I'm Eliza F, and on Twitter, I'm Eliza FX. If you have any questions, observations, or comments on this session, please reach out to me on one of those platforms, and I promise I will get back to you. This is where I'm recording the session from this evening. This is my desk at home in my power colour red, and the very nice home studio equipment that my company has loaned me to do this talk on. So being a trusted advisor, what is it? It's a concept that already exists within the law. And what it means to a lawyer is being the best possible representative for your client, giving them the best possible advice that's in their best interest. And sometimes this can go against their own self-interest. So they may have to tell a client something like, I've gone as far as my expertise and my knowledge allows. You're probably better off going to another lawyer with more concentrated expertise in the area that you need. So even though it will affect my profits, I'm going to tell you to go elsewhere for the help that you need. So within testing, obviously we don't have clients unless we work as consultants. Around us as a tester, we have users, we have a team, we have our stakeholders, and then we have our peers that maybe are within other teams if we work for a slightly bigger company. So for all those around us, if we're thinking about their best interests, we're going to advise accordingly. And we're going to also use it as a mechanism to build trust, and we're going to make sure that the advice that we're given is understood. Now, taking the time to make sure that your advice or message is understood is really, really important. I'm going to give you two examples to kind of show how ways in which people don't take the time to make sure that their message is understood. So imagine someone came up to you with a load of information. They just lobbed it at you and walked away without giving you time to ask questions or tell them your assumptions or say where things weren't clear. That's not very good, is it? That's not a very good way to give advice or information. There's also been drip-fed feedback by attrition. So you write 10 paragraphs on a subject, whatever it happens to be. Someone reviews one paragraph, it points out everything that's wrong. You make the changes that you feel are right, send it back, and then they comment on paragraph 2 and 3. You grit your teeth, you fix the changes again, you send it back, feedback comes back, and then this keeps going on and on and on. It's an exhausting way to sort of receive a message about where something doesn't conform to the standards that someone expects. And these are horrible ways to get your message across. You're going to lose your audience if you communicate in this way. So on the point of trust and advice, Jerry Weinberg had a brilliant quote that just sums up what should be everyone's attitude to trust and advice. Trust has two parts: trust in intention and trust in competence. Weinberg, who passed away in 2018, talked about the concept of trust beautifully in his 1986 book, Secrets of Consulting. In it, he wrote extensively about how to give and accept advice successfully. These are the two quotes that sum up his whole message for me. Intention. Any advisor must come from a place of knowledge with any advice offered. The reward in this is that it builds and sustains long-term working partnership built on mutual trust. And then on competence. Competence flows from intention. If your intention is to act in the best interest of your team and project, you will be competent with how you formulate your advice, and you will take the time to ensure that it is right for any given situation. And that's basically the whole idea behind a trusted advisor, that you take yourself, your ego, your bias, your lack of knowledge out of an equation, and you figure out how to fill in those gaps and just with what the person in front of you asking for advice needs. So all this requires planning and forethought and maybe a change in attitude. So why do it as a tester? Well, our role as a tester is to share information. What's wrong with our product, what's right with our product, what's good about our processes, what's bad about our processes. It's very important that we do that credibly. And if we do that credibly, the good things start to happen. We get the reputation of giving good advice. Now, if you get into that position where people trust the advice that you're given, peers develop the habit of listening to us. And that's very important to us as a tester in our role of giving information. So what happens when we're not listened to? When our intentions are good, but actually our audience is kind of bad? Well, I wondered about this in the course of putting this talk together. So in 2018, when I first wrote it, I conducted a survey on SurveyMonkey, and 2,034 testers, thank you all if you're listening, replied. So what happens when you're not listened to as a tester? Well, I divided this into two parts. Are you still working for the company or person that doesn't listen to you? And have you left? So of those that are still working for the company or an individual that doesn't listen to them, 57% of them dislike their work. 33% feel run down. 37% feel either stressed or other mental health issues as a result of it. Of those 234 testers, 34% have already left the company or individual that didn't listen to them. And of the 34 that left those environments, 32% will not work with the individual that didn't listen to them again, and 70% will not work for that company again. And there's a further knock-on effect to this as well. Those testers who worked for individuals or companies that didn't listen to them, they'll go out, they'll talk to their peers, they will say, don't work here because this is the bad place, that does the bad things. That means those companies will find it harder to recruit people. Now, you might be thinking, hang on a minute, are you blaming a tester for the fact they're not listened to when actually it might be the individual or the company that just don't have a listening culture? We should do our best to make sure a company has reason to listen and use our advice and treat us as a trusted advisor. But if we do our very best and they still don't listen, we may have to consider it is them and not us. It's very hard for an individual to change toxic work practices of individuals or change bad cultures in companies all by ourselves. We're only one person after all. Now, I'm not coming from a place of saying, hey, you know what, you must leave. But actually, if it's not safe and if it's not something that's going to be appreciated for you to try and do and work in this way, don't do it. Collect your paycheck, and then when the time is right, make your jump to a company that actually deserves you. So if it is safe and it is right and you will be supported into moving into the space of a trusted advisor, here's how to do it. Be focused. It's very important that you understand the ask of you as a trusted advisor, whether it's to recommend a solution, a way of working, a change in process, or a tool to support automation. Do your research. It's very easy to think, because I've worked with this tool, this process, this methodology, whatever before, and I'm comfortable with it, I'll easily be able to do it again. Context is everything. If your research reveals that actually the way that a particular company or environment needs to work is not right for your experience, then do your research and figure out a better way, and tell the person that you are the trusted advisor to that actually, you know what, this is something I don't know, I need to go away and research this. Communicate effectively. So not everybody around you will be as tech savvy, tool savvy, test savvy as you are. So take the time to think about that and how to plan your message in such a way that you'll come across as understandable and actually reputable in what you're talking about. Be social, share. So if you learn something new or you figure out something new, you know, do a demo for your team, do a learning lunch for your peers, go out and talk about it on a stage at a test event if you're so inclined. But if you're doing it online, be aware that routers do tend to explode at the moments that you don't need them to. Practice cognitive empathy. If somebody's asking you for something, understand where they're coming from and why they're asking you that, and actually, is there a subtext to what they're asking you too? Now, all of this might sound like really hard work and maybe a change in personality, but it's actually not that. It's a change in mindset. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken, said Oscar Wilde, and he's absolutely right. This is not about changing yourself. It's just about changing and thinking about the way that you think. So with your advice, give the advice that's in the recipient's best interests. It is up to them to listen to this advice or not. Being a trusted advisor, moving into that space makes it easy for those who want to listen to keep listening. Do take the time to understand your users' needs. Needs are not always the same as wants. Sometimes people express what they think they want in the form of a solution, but that solution mightn't always be what they need. On the point of being social and sharing, this does not mean marching to the pub every time someone in the team gets a tooth out, although that's a really nice thing to do too, so should everybody in the team be so inclined. In this instance, I'm talking about the sharing kind of social, the interactions kind of social. So find a space in which you're comfortable to share. So it could be the idea of standing up in front of everybody and doing a demo would make you run a mile in high heels on cobbles. That's fine. Don't do it that way. Maybe share it as a blog post, share it as a video online. Wherever your comfort zone is, find that and share in that way. So this is the end to part 1. It's quite difficult keeping up the energy to an audience that you can't see. Even though I've got a really nice photograph from Agile testing days of Rachel Kibler, taken by Rachel Kibler, that I'm looking at the moment and imagining I'm speaking to them. I will cut this off here, and then what I'm going to do is do a part 2 for those that are still interested and want to keep watching. So I hope you'll join me for part 2. It will follow on very shortly after this one.